How long does it take to reduce belly fat? That's what we're going to be talking about in this video. All right, so one of the most common questions I get asked is how long will it take for me to reduce my belly fat? And I just want to unpack this a little bit in this video because we want to follow evidence-based science. We want to be really sensible about this. And it's so important that you understand the mechanisms of what to do, how to do it, and then how long it's going to take you. So I'm going to answer that burning question right at the end of this video. And how long? But before I can answer that question, I just need to unpack it a little bit. So the first thing is belly fat. So what is belly fat? Now, there are two kinds of belly fat. One is subcutaneous fat, which is the little layer of fat, which is likely maybe around your belly. And this is very often for younger women who are in their 20s, in their 30s, even their early 40s. And subcutaneous fat could be around your belly, or it's a little layer of fat that could be in your arms and your legs as well. And this is the healthier kind of fat, which is the subcutaneous fat. Okay, it's just under your skin. Then there is the different kind of fat, which unfortunately we are seeing younger and younger women develop now, which is visceral fat. And this is the deeper layers of fat. Dangerous because it's highly inflammatory and it's been associated with heart disease, with diabetes, with metabolic disorders, even with certain forms of cancer. So that visceral fat, which essentially is sort of wraps around your inner organs and is more prevalent in postmenopausal women. When your estrogen levels decline, you're going to be much more likely to have that visceral fat. We tend to store more fat deep in our abdomen, unfortunately, when we're postmenopausal. So the most important thing is to understand those two different kinds of fat. So we tend to think belly fat and it's under this big umbrella, but really understand what kind of fat you're dealing with. And it might be a little bit of both as well, which is very, very normal. Now, the really good news is that visceral fat, the deeper and the more dangerous fat, is the first to go. If you follow pretty much the nutritional plan that I have my clients follow, the visceral fat is the first thing to leave. Wave bye-bye to visceral fat. Thank goodness, because that is essential, that is safe, that is for your health. And then it might take a little bit longer for the subcutaneous fat, because that's going to be a sort of fat drop throughout your body and also on your abdomen, okay? So let's talk about the three things to consider when we are specifically talking about the visceral fat. Okay, number one is diet, nutrition. It is absolutely 100% number one. You cannot out-exercise nutrition that is not going to work to minimize belly fat. And nutrition actually is also for subcutaneous fat, but very much for visceral fat. Nutrition comes first. I'm a board certified nutritionist, and I've seen it time and time again. Women having astounding results in a very short amount of time through switching up their nutrition. So the two most commonly asked questions that I get when it comes to nutrition are this. Number one, Sophie, do I need to give up carbs? I just need to stop eating carbs. And I'm like, no, you do not. That is actually not what you need to do at all. In fact, you need to actually increase the amount of carbs that you eat. Shocker, right? But wait a minute. There is a big difference between complex carbs and obviously simple carbs or refined carbs. Huge difference. So your simple carbs are going to be bread, white potatoes, white rice, but mainly, I mean, even they are okay in moderation, but think of your donuts, your crackers, your chips, your white pasta, your pizza, that's all the carbs, obviously, that you do not want to be eating. Why? Because it spikes your blood sugar very, very quickly. And that spike in blood sugar, where are you storing that excess glucose? You're going to be storing it in your fat stores. So we don't want our refined carbs, but the magic key that you do want is complex carbs. They're your body's preferred source of fuel. They're your brain's preferred source of fuel. When you ingest, and I have so many different videos on this, when you ingest complex carbs such as beans, peas, chickpeas, lentils, plant-based proteins, whole intact grains, sweet potatoes, root veggies, and the list goes on and on of complex carbs. Guess what happens? You eat those carbs, you feed the good microbes in your gut, the good bacteria in your gut. They reward you. They're like, thank you. That's exactly what I needed to eat. And they release a metabolite called short chain fatty acids. Short chain fatty acids decrease inflammation in that visceral fat. They regulate your appetite. They heal leaky gut. Essentially, all you need to know is that you need short chain fatty acids to reduce that belly fat, that deep visceral fat. So the worst thing that you can do is to cut out complex carbs. You need them, and you need to eat them in every single meal. Another complex carb is a whole intact fruit. A lot of people go, I can't eat fruit. Yes, you can eat fruit. If the sugar is bound to fiber and water, which it is in a whole fruit, that is also a very healthy complex carb, right? Now, the other common question that I get with nutrition is, I just need to load up on protein, which kind of goes with the same thing, right? It's the standard thing of I've got to get rid of all carbs and all I've got to eat is tons of chicken breasts and protein. And then I'm going to get rid of my belly fat. Wrong. That is a total myth as well. Yes, you need protein. You do, but you need adequate protein, not excess protein. Excess protein can be deleterious to your health, particularly over the age of 50. And also, excess protein can be stored as fat. So you need an adequate amount of protein. So I'm going to leave in the description to this video what is an adequate and optimal amount of protein. I'll leave that in the description below this video. So it depends. It depends on your age, your activity level, your body size, on a lot of different things. It's not a one size fits all, but it's very, very easy to assess what your adequate and optimal amount of protein is every single day. The next question I get is, wait, surely a sort of keto style diet is the best thing for, getting rid of that belly fat. And this kind of connects with the protein question. I would say no, and particularly for a woman who's in perimenopause, menopause, or beyond. Why? Because a keto style diet is very high in saturated fat. So one of the biggest drivers of visceral fat and metabolic disease and type 2 diabetes, and in pretty much everything that you're trying to avoid, is an excess of saturated fat in your diet. So you want to dial that down to the bare minimum. So what is our prime source of saturated fat? Prime source comes from animal and dairy products, very concentrated saturated fat. There is some saturated fat in plant foods as well, and certain healthy oils. But the main source is going to be in your animal and dairy products, animal-derived products. So really cut back on those, minimize those, and instead get your protein in an anti-inflammatory form that doesn't have all this excess fat and cholesterol, which is going to be plant-based proteins, such as tempeh, tofu, edamame beans, peas, lentils, chickpeas, etc. That's where you really want to start looking to getting your main protein source from. All right, so next, let's just quickly talk a little bit about exercise, because a big question that I get is, just tell me the exercises I need to do. If I do enough abdominal exercises, surely I can just zap that belly fat away for good. And here's the thing, that is absolutely not true, and particularly doing tons of abdominal exercises, because you need to release the fat to reveal your beautiful, strong muscles. So the first thing is the nutrition, to release the fat. And then obviously you want to work on building nice, strong abdominal muscles for your health more than anything else. And also because it's going to help shape and change your body composition. So you do need exercise, but instead of focusing your exercise on doing tons and tons of crunches and abdominal exercises, what you really want to focus your attention on is doing resistance training about 3 to 4 times a week. So focus mainly, if you're focusing on one area, on your lower body, on big compound moves with your lower body, such as squats, lunges, and deadlifts, really dialing those in with a nice heavy weight. You might need supervision to do that, to do it really safely. Because when you're performing those lower body and some strong heavy lifting upper body exercises, then you're engaging your core. So it's really a whole body workout. And then of course you can do some safe ab exercises, but really make sure they're safe, because as you get older, it's very easy to hurt your neck. But I would say number one driver is nutrition. Number two is yes, you want to be building that nice, strong core. Number three, and don't underestimate this, is stress, because when you're living with chronic stress all the time, which a lot of people are, then you are releasing very high cortisol levels. It's a stress hormone. And unfortunately, a constant release of cortisol, if it's every day, all day, every day, releases this glucose into your blood, and you're going to store it as visceral fat. So I know it's easier said than done. You're like, okay, great, but I've got all this going on in my life and I am stressed. But that's why really developing some kind of a practice, mindfulness practice, meditation practice, learning how, emotional regulation. This is a lot of the work that I do with my clients, really to dial that down. And now to get to the initial question, how long does it take? Sophie, if I dial in all the above, if I dial in my nutrition, which really, let's just go over that one more time. If I dial in my nutrition, which is that I'm going to dramatically, significantly minimize saturated fats in my diet, I'm going to bring in plenty of really healthy, complex carbs. I'm going to reduce oil as well, and that's all oils, because all oils, even olive oil, has 9 calories per gram, as opposed to 4 with all your other macronutrients, okay? So minimizing, number one, saturated fat, minimizing oil, obviously minimizing added or any kind of refined sugar, okay? So getting that dialed in, plenty of whole food, plant-based foods, flooding your body with that. So if you do that in a really well-planned way, making sure that you're getting adequate protein, and you are doing resistance training exercises, workouts 2 to 4 times a week, and managing your stress, then in as little as 3 months, in 90 days, you can start seeing gains. You can literally get a tape measure out. This is what my clients do, because it's much more accurate to use a tape measure than it is to look at the number on the scale. You can get a tape measure out, and my clients do, and they're going to see a significant difference inside of 90 days. Literally, how many inches? 2 inches, 3 inches, off their waist, and inches off their arms, off their thighs, off their calf muscles, in as little as 90 days, safely and effectively, without taking any medications. And at the same time, you're building lean, strong muscles. Now, if you keep on doing this inside of 6 months, I want to give you a timeline here of realistically how long. Inside of 6 months, you could realistically release, I'd say, about 8 to 10 inches off your waist, right? Which is how you're going to measure your belly fat. And my lovely client, Christine, she released 17 inches of belly fat off her waistline and 70 pounds of fat. And it took her just shy of a year, but doing it really, really safely. She never starved herself. She did not calorie count. She enjoys her food. She loves her life. She's not doing a crazy amount of exercise. So doing it in a way that is really safe, enjoyable. It is a beautiful lifestyle. You're not taking weight loss medications that can mess up your gut and lead to sarcopenia, losing lean muscle mass. Don't recommend those. And in a way that healed her gut, healed her inflammation. That's what we're talking about. So that is the timeline. In as little as 90 days, 3 months, you can get significant gains. 6 months, you're going to be, oh my gosh, I'm literally having to throw out a bunch of my clothes and go down 2 or 3 dress sizes and jean sizes. And in less than a year, you're going to be looking at literally buying an entirely different wardrobe. And like Christine, holding up your big pants or your big yoga pants or jeans or whatever and go, literally 2 of me used to be able to fit into that. All right. So that's the timeline. You can do it. And little details below this video just to find out a little bit more about how it's done, and look at some of my other videos because I've got tons of videos where I go more detailed into nutrition.